Let me tell you something most men never realize. Sometimes, the moment a woman starts missing you the most is the exact moment she starts acting like she doesn't care at all. Let's be honest for a moment. You've felt it before, haven't you? That strange pull you can't quite explain. That quiet tension in the air when she's near, and even when she isn't. It's subtle, almost invisible, but something inside you knows. There are moments when you sense her absence more than her presence. Moments when she walks away, yet somehow still lingers in your mind. And sometimes, late at night, a message appears on your phone. Short, casual, almost meaningless on the surface. Yet somehow it lands differently. A simple sentence, a harmless question, maybe even just a reaction to a story you posted hours ago. But something about it feels heavier than the words themselves. Because what most men don't realize is that sometimes those tiny gestures are carrying emotions she isn't ready to say out loud. She misses you, not in a dramatic way, not in the kind of way that leads to long confessions or emotional speeches. No, her longing is quieter than that, more complicated, more hidden. And the strange part is, the deeper her feelings become, the more carefully she may try to hide them. Most men completely miss this. They assume attraction should always be obvious. That interest must look loud, direct, and easy to read. If she misses you, she should say it. If she cares, she should show it, right? But human psychology, especially emotional psychology, rarely works that way. Because for many women, feelings are something they guard carefully. Not because they want to play games, not because they enjoy confusion, but because vulnerability can feel dangerous. When someone begins to matter deeply, the emotional stakes rise. Suddenly, every interaction feels heavier. Every message matters more. Every moment of silence becomes louder. So instead of revealing everything openly, she protects herself. She pulls parts of herself back, and from the outside, it can look like distance. Sometimes she appears calm, sometimes even slightly indifferent. She might say she's busy, or distracted, or simply fine. But inside, her mind is replaying moments the two of you shared. A conversation that made her laugh. A small compliment you gave without realizing how much it meant. A moment when she felt understood. Those memories stay with her longer than she admits. Because when someone touches you emotionally, the mind rarely lets it go easily. That quiet tension you sometimes feel between you and her, it isn't random. It's the echo of unfinished emotions. And the interesting thing is, the more someone tries to suppress those emotions, the stronger they often become. Psychology calls this emotional suppression. When feelings are pushed down rather than expressed, they don't disappear. They grow. They swirl quietly beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to rise again. This is why her behavior may seem confusing. One day she seems warm and engaged. The next day she becomes quiet or distant. You might assume she's losing interest, but what you're actually seeing is someone navigating emotions she hasn't fully allowed herself to admit, because admitting them would mean accepting vulnerability. And vulnerability requires trust. So instead, she hides pieces of it. Sometimes she masks it with humor, sometimes with sarcasm, sometimes with silence. But emotions have a fascinating way of revealing themselves in small, unconscious ways. Tiny behaviors, microsignals, the kinds of things most people overlook. Maybe she lingers in a conversation slightly longer than necessary. Maybe she casually brings up a memory the two of you shared. Maybe she glances toward you for a split second, then quickly looks away. These things are rarely planned. They happen instinctively. Our bodies often reveal what our words are trying to conceal. And attraction, emotional attachment, longing. These emotions subtly shape body language, a shift in posture, a softer tone of voice, a brief hesitation before leaving the room. None of these things scream for attention, but together, they tell a quiet story. The story of someone who is trying to remain composed while feeling more than they expected. Here's where many men misunderstand female psychology. Men are often taught to look for clear, direct signals, frequent texting, initiating plans, open expressions of interest. Those things do happen sometimes. But when emotions become deeper, people often behave differently, especially when fear enters the picture. Fear of rejection, fear of looking too eager, fear of caring more than the other person. So instead of moving closer, she may briefly step back, not because she wants distance, but because she's measuring the emotional risk. She's asking herself questions she might never say aloud. Does he feel the same way? Am I reading too much into this? What if I care more than he does? These quiet, internal conversations shape her behavior. And when someone is wrestling with these thoughts, their actions become careful, calculated, guarded. She may respond slower than usual. She may keep conversations light. She may even tease you, as a way of expressing affection without exposing deeper feelings. From the outside, it looks playful. But beneath the humor, there's something more sincere, because teasing often hides comfort, and comfort usually grows from emotional connection. Another thing that often happens when someone misses you is that they begin to look for subtle ways to stay connected, not in obvious ways, but in quiet ones. She might watch your stories more often than she admits. She might casually react to something you shared, even if it's hours later. She might mention something you talked about weeks ago, remembering details you thought she'd forgotten. Memory is a powerful indicator of emotional investment. When someone remembers small things about you, it means your presence has settled somewhere in their thoughts. And the interesting part is, people don't always realize they're doing it. Emotional attachment shapes attention. Your brain begins to notice things connected to that person more easily: their voice, their humor, their habits, even the times of day you usually interact, which is why sometimes she might check her phone at moments that strangely line up with when you usually message, not because she planned it, but because her mind has quietly learned your rhythm. And rhythms create expectation. Expectation creates anticipation. And anticipation is often the quiet language of missing someone. But here's the paradox. The stronger those emotions become, the more carefully she may try to hide them. Because admitting them would shift the balance. It would place her heart somewhere visible. And when a heart is visible, it can also be hurt. So she maintains composure. She appears calm. She tells herself she's not thinking about you that much. Yet somehow, memories of you keep appearing in unexpected moments, while driving home, while hearing a joke that reminds her of your humor, while scrolling through something that sparks a shared memory. These thoughts arrive quietly, without invitation, and each time they do, she feels that familiar pull again, the pull she's trying not to name. This internal tension creates a fascinating psychological dance. Part of her wants to move closer. Another part wants to stay protected, so her behavior moves back and forth between warmth and restraint, a smile followed by distance, playful teasing followed by silence, a thoughtful message followed by a long pause. It isn't manipulation, it's uncertainty mixed with emotion, and uncertainty often creates the very signals people call mixed. But the signals themselves aren't actually mixed, they're layered. One layer shows composure, the other reveals attachment. If you observe carefully, both exist at the same time. You might notice the way her eyes brighten when you enter a room, or how her tone changes slightly when she speaks directly to you. There's a subtle warmth there, a softness that doesn't appear with everyone, and those small shifts are often the most honest expressions of emotion, because they happen instinctively. They slip through the cracks of self-control. And those moments are where genuine feelings quietly reveal themselves. Another powerful clue often appears in timing. Sometimes she reaches out with something small, a random thought, a funny clip, a casual, "Did you see this?" On the surface, it looks like nothing, but psychologically, these small interactions often serve a deeper purpose. They reopen connection. They remind both people of each other's presence. They keep the thread between two lives from fading. In psychology, these behaviors are often called bids for connection. Small invitations to interact, tiny bridges between two emotional worlds. And when someone misses you, those bridges appear more frequently. Not dramatically, just quietly, subtly. enough to keep the connection alive without exposing too much vulnerability. Because vulnerability still feels risky, especially if she isn't completely sure where she stands with you. And uncertainty can make even strong emotions feel fragile, so she protects them. She holds them close. She lets them appear only in safe moments, moments where they can be disguised as casual conversation or humor. But every once in a while, the mask slips. Maybe she laughs a little harder than expected. Maybe she lingers before saying goodbye. Maybe her eyes hold contact for just a second longer. These brief moments are like windows, tiny glimpses into the emotional world she normally keeps hidden. And if you're paying attention, you'll notice something important. Her silence isn't empty. Her distance isn't cold. They're simply spaces where emotions are being processed. And emotional processing takes time. People often revisit memories again and again before they understand how they truly feel. They replay conversations, they analyze moments, they ask themselves questions about meaning and intention. So while you might think she's moved on, there's a strong chance she's simply thinking, reflecting, sorting through feelings that became deeper than expected. And when someone is doing that, they rarely announce it. They carry those thoughts quietly until one day, the truth becomes clearer even to themselves. This is why emotional intelligence matters so much in relationships, because understanding someone isn't just about listening to what they say. It's also about noticing what they hesitate to say. It's about sensing the emotions that live between their words. And when someone realizes they're being understood at that deeper level, something remarkable happens. Their defenses soften, the protective walls begin to lower, not suddenly, but gradually, because safety changes everything. When a person feels safe, vulnerability no longer feels like a threat. It begins to feel like connection. And connection is what every human heart quietly seeks. So if you ever sense that subtle pull again, that quiet feeling that she's present even in her absence, don't rush to label it. Don't assume distance always means disinterest. Sometimes it simply means someone is protecting feelings that matter more than they expected, feelings they're still learning how to hold. Because missing someone isn't weakness. It's evidence that a connection left a mark. And when two people recognize that mark in each other, something deeper becomes possible. Not confusion, not guessing games, but understanding. The kind of understanding that grows from patience, from observation, from noticing the small moments most people overlook. A lingering glance, a quiet message, a pause before goodbye. These moments may seem ordinary, but together, they tell a story of emotions moving beneath the surface, a story of someone who may miss you more than they're ready to admit. And when you learn to see those quiet signals, you stop chasing loud answers. You begin listening to subtle truths instead. Because the deepest feelings are rarely announced. They reveal themselves slowly, in the spaces between words. And sometimes, those silent spaces speak louder than anything else.